So Trump announced the U.S. government is going to take a 10% stake in Intel, which has been struggling. This stake involves a payment of just a little bit under $9 billion that is taking CHIPS Act grants and reallocating them to a purchase of a stake in Intel, which has been struggling, without really any guarantees on how that is going to pay off for the American public. So it's going to be paid for around $5.7 billion in grants that were awarded to Intel in the CHIPS Act, plus $3.2 billion that were allocated to them as a part of this like other program for industrial policy. But this stake is not, there aren't many guarantees, it appears, shockingly, that the returns go back to the American public. And you're seeing even like some centrist pundits talking about how this is like socialism or communism or something like that. Well, we know that when the economy was like recovering from the crash after 2008, the Obama administration did something similar. Like GM filed for bankruptcy and the United States temporarily became the majority owner, bought into it. And yeah, we helped like save the American car industry, but it wasn't about control of this company with public investment going into it. It was basically a giveaway, right? So Trump is doing something fairly similar, but it's not socialism. It's about the government money going to prop up our industries without there being public control and public benefits coming back to people. So this is more like Obama than it is like freaking socialism.
I mean, what this is just a periodic reminder that capitalism doesn't actually work. It's a big fat myth. It's never worked throughout history. It's always required extreme force by the state to make it have a semblance of coherence.
And here is Kevin Hassett, Kevin Hassett, who went on CNBC to explain the decision behind this and says that we should expect that the United States is going to be doing more of this.
Okay, so we should expect the U.S. government to be taking more equity stakes in businesses around the country. That is something that if you're a CEO this morning watching us, you should say, okay, the Sovereign Wealth Fund may be coming and trying to effectively buy in some kind of equity stake.
It's possible, yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, that if in the past the federal government has been giving money away lickety-split to companies, and the taxpayers have received nothing in return. And so now what's happening with the Intel deal is the CHIPS Act money is going out as planned, but instead of it just going out and disappearing into the ether, the U.S. taxpayers are getting a little bit of equity. I can really not see how anyone would think that's a bad thing, unless you thought that the government was then going to go in and run the company. But these are going to be shares that don't have voting rights. The government's going to stay out of it.
Well, it goes back a little bit to the Ronald Reagan quote that I started with, which is when, for many, many years, you know, you and I used to have conversations about Solyndra and how I think you thought that that was a terrible, terrible mistake for the U.S. government to be getting involved in. We have been exporting.
Can I just say, like, y'all were fucking stupid when you said that.
Yeah.
Like, we have a moronic conversation about this that is diluted into thinking the free market is something that actually, like, delivers for people. It's not. And so the Solyndra freakout, which is back in the Obama era, where they decided, hey, let's start supporting different companies, which, by the way, one of them, some of them were Elon Musk's companies. And so they gave like grants basically to these companies. And it turns out that when you make investments, some of them don't turn out well. And actually it turns out in the entrepreneurial community, some people that are full of shit, surprise, surprise. That's when you do this thing through private markets, you're going to deal with people like that. But that it's like some huge crime nobody remembers anymore, because actually most people understand that the government has some role into fostering innovation.
And this is actually it's much closer to you know, an Obama or Biden policy than it is to like socialism or whatever, or communism or anything. But it's worse, because instead of giving it as a grant, it's about inflating the stock price. Right. They're buying stock. and equity.
Right, it's for parasites.
Exactly. So it's propping up artificially Intel's falling stock price so it can remain competitive, and the economy, it helps it delay its collapse, which appears inevitable given the tariffs. Like, we're seeing crazy numbers about long-term unemployment that are getting kind of undercovered. The economy is slowly falling apart right now.
This is more likely to be a pump and dump than an actual restoration of Intel to competitiveness.
Exactly. So instead of a grant, which then they would have to take that money to go into research and development or creating stuff, still the public should own part of this if public money is going towards it. But that was the Biden CHIPS Act stuff. And, but this is about just the stock price, equity. That's a key differentiator here. So we're, of course, getting less back as Hassett claims we're getting more, which probably means Donald Trump is getting more, because this is about Trump shaking down companies. It's the same thing with the tariff policies in order to get something that he wants. It's much more like Vladimir Putin's crony capitalist economic structure in Russia, where there's like deep ties from the heads of state or people in power to private industry, where they reap benefits from it and make a crap ton of money from these private industries and corruptly redirect public funds to benefit themselves. But it's oligarchic crony capitalism and says nothing about the public owning this stuff. This is about Donald Trump and his family making more money.
Right, because even then they admit, like, we're not actually going to impinge on any of their ideas.
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole point of taking ownership of this stuff when you're giving out treats to them.
Goes back a little bit to the Ronald Reagan quote that I started with, which is when, for many, many years, you and I used to have conversations about Solyndra and how I think you thought that was a terrible, terrible mistake for the U.S. government to be getting involved in. We have been exporting the idea of a free market around the world for as long as I can remember.
Whoops.
And this is a major shift. Do you not agree?
No, I think this is a very special case of Biden committed the money. President Trump and Howard Lutnick weren't very clear that they wanted to continue to let the money go out because the paths weren't being crossed, the hurdles weren't being crossed. And so I think it's a very special case. But again, the general principle that if the U.S. government is able to create a situation that benefits everybody, then it should benefit the taxpayers too.
Who does it benefit? How does this benefit the taxpayers? It benefits Donald Trump in temporarily propping up the stock market, because Intel is one of the, big behemoth companies right now. Our whole economy is being propped up by AI speculation, which is bursting as we speak. And this is about delaying the inevitable for when this freak moron crashes the economy. And helping people on Wall Street by inflating their investments in Intel by having government funds go into it.
The principle overall, though, is more accurate than what the centrists are saying about this is bad. The free market stuff that he's saying, good riddance. That's gone. It's in the rear view. No one believes in that anymore. It hasn't delivered. It's actually turned the entire American population against the political class. Everyone's running on supposed affordability and supposed jobs, whether if you're Trump talking about immigration or Cuomo talking about it being unsafe to ride the subway, or Zoran saying we need grocery stores. Like, the free market's broken. And the worry I have is that Democrats are going to be like Hakeem Jeffries was, saying corporate America hears this that we're the free market party. That's bullshit. It doesn't exist. Like, all the stuff saying Ronald Reagan said this, we said this about Solyndra, that was all a waste of breath.
Yep. All right, guys, let's open up the phone lines in just a second. I will do that here.
Did we call it?
We did call in, I think. Yeah. Did you guys hear it? Yeah. All right, let's see if it's working. All right, opening up the phones. 646-257-3920. Connie from Jersey, I believe NVIDIA accounts for nearly 10% of the S&P 500. Bonkers. That is not sustainable.
And the role that NVIDIA plays in this AI speculation thing isn't like, software or solutions that employ AI. It's the raw material chips for AI, which is like looking at the gold rush and seeing that the most profitable company during it is the one selling shovels and not the one trying to take gold out of the mountain.
Josh from Minnesota. Intel is also the only competitor of TSMC in cutting-edge fabrication right now. AMD and NVIDIA have TSMC perform their fabrication work. And the higher-end Intel chips are also TSMC produced. Bigger concern right now is the monopoly that would result in Intel's collapse. Right. Because of the... because they're more of the manufacturing side.
TSMC, like, did that IMR said like they make both for NVIDIA and AMD?
Yep.
Yeah,
because of their fabrications.
The fabs in Taiwan are the most advanced. They make, it's like down to like 2 nanometers or something like that. The most advanced computer chips you can get anywhere. And, I think there is some interest in wanting to have some of that capabilities in America too. I wish it wasn't just about making it, I don't know, like, great power conflict with China, but.
Tony32 UK said, don't mix up CPUs and the GPUs, but the power consumption of CUDA cores are too hot. That is what I did earlier when I got a little tied up. Thank you, Tony. Apple uses an ARM variation of RISC in their chips. Manchester by the Sea. Obama took redeemable preferred stock. It was called stock, but acted like a loan. We got paid back. This thing at Intel is very different. It's a no-strings capital injection and the promise to vote to support Intel managers. It's pretty smelly. Yep. I mean, I think by 2012, like also some of the loans we gave out to the banks, they were, supposedly paid back. This is not to defend the Obama administration recovery policy, but it is to say that like it's a little bit less disgusting than this brazen giveaway here.
I mean, the problem is like, we should have, this is the point that he sort of also skirted, saying we're not going to make decisions about this. We should not have given any money to the banks without saying, hey, you can't kick people out of their homes. Stop this foreclosure shit. Or conversely, giving all this money to GM and stuff, there should have been some ability of the government to say, actually, we need to build some electric cars. Or cars that maybe the rest of the world wants to buy instead of just like suburban freaks that have way too much money in our own country. Because global competitiveness might be important in 2020, like 10 years from now.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.